Sometimes the cacophony of our thoughts, words, and deeds can drown out stillness. The wisdom of Buddhism reminds us that there are times when silence is not only golden, but also profoundly transformative. It teaches us to recognize the power of silence and to use it wisely, especially in 5 crucial situations. We find ourselves talking, texting, or posting on social media all the time, filling our lives with endless chatter. This exploration of Buddhism's spiritual teachings will lead us to comprehend the importance of remaining silent in 5 different circumstances. Let's examine these age-old pearls of wisdom, embracing the peace of silence and solving our issues in life. These lessons provide deep insights that can motivate us to live a more thoughtful, peaceful, and meaningful existence. First of all, according to the renowned Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, the power of silence is a profound state of being rather than just the absence of noise. Silence is crucial. We require silence in the same way that plants require light. If our minds are overflowing with ideas and words, we will not have any room. Buddhism acknowledges this area and promotes its development in many facets of life, as silence serves as a means of achieving inner peace. Self-awareness and mindfulness, it gives us the chance to listen to the outer world, but more significantly, to the whispers in our hearts and minds. It's a potent instrument that can change how we engage with the world and deal with life's obstacles. As we travel through the 5 scenarios in which Buddhism advises silence, let's remember that silence is not about being passive or uncaring. Rather, it's about being present-minded and purposeful. Let's examine these scenarios, comprehend their importance, and accept silence as a source of empowerment. Number 2. In the face of anger, always remain silent. Anger is a strong and frequently destructive emotion, and when we are angry, our words and deed behavior are driven by this strong feeling and can have unexpected consequences. Buddhism teaches us that ignorance and attachment aversion are the root causes of anger. When we become attached to our wants or aversions and fail to recognize the transience and interconnectedness of everything, anger can consume us. In these situations, silence is a powerful remedy because it allows us to take a moment to consider the cause of our anger and observe our emotional responses without passing judgment or expressing them right away. In addition to providing a buffer against the harsh words and deeds that frequently accompany anger, silence also helps us to protect our relationships and foster an environment of peace and understanding. By practicing mindful breathing and self-inquiry, we can gain insight into the underlying causes of our anger. The tale of the 2 arrows is part of the Buddhist tradition. When something upsetting occurs in our lives, the first arrow reflects the pain or suffering we initially feel. The second arrow represents the misery we cause ourselves by reacting to the first arrow. We can prevent shooting that second arrow and lessen needless suffering by learning to remain silent when we are angry. To fully comprehend this lesson, let's examine the nature of anger and the reasons Buddhism stresses valence as the proper reaction. Let's take a closer look at the wisdom of silence in the face of anger. Buddhism frequently views anger as an expression of our attachments and aversions. When we have strong desires or dislike a certain circumstance, anger may arise as a reaction to what we perceive to be a danger to those wishes. In the face of rage, our commitment to our wishes causes us to lose sight of how everything is interconnected and how fleeting the universe is. Since our minds are clouded by emotions and our thoughts are frequently irrational and impulsive when we are angry, silence becomes a haven of self-awareness and reflection. Instead of lashing out in the heat of the moment, we can take a deep breath, give ourselves a moment of stillness, and observe the anger without passing judgment. In this state, our words and actions can cause regret and harm to both ourselves and others. This technique is based on self-awareness and mindfulness, which are important elements of the Eightfold Path. By asking ourselves important questions in quiet, we can: what am I tied to in this circumstance, and what aversion is causing me to feel angry? These investigations can yield significant understanding of the underlying reasons behind our rage. We might learn that our expectations are hurting us, that our aversions are based on misinterpretations, or that our attachments are unrealistic. Additionally, silence acts as a buffer against the negative effects of our rash words and deeds. When we are angry, we may say hurtful things or make poor choices. By choosing to remain silent, we keep ourselves from hurting other people and preserve the integrity of our relationships. What happened to the two arrows? Beautifully illustrate this idea by using the first arrow to show the first arrow represents the pain or suffering we endure when something upsetting occurs to us. This is a natural part of life and cannot be avoided. However, the second arrow represents the suffering we cause ourselves by reacting to the first arrow with anger, which causes us to shoot the second arrow, causing needless suffering. By practicing silence when angry, we can learn to deal with the first arrow more skillfully, acknowledging the pain without adding to it with our reactivity and anger. This not only lessens our suffering but also keeps us from hurting other people. Creating an atmosphere that is more kind and peaceful. By accepting this lesson, we can progressively develop emotional resilience and wisdom. Silence in the face of anger is a call to awareness, self-reflection, and self-control. It enables us to convert anger into understanding and compassion. Instead of denying or repressing our emotions, the practice of silence in the face of anger invites us to interact with them more thoughtfully and constructively. By staying silent, we make room for introspection and self-compassion, acknowledge our anger without passing judgment, and watch it with curiosity. In addition to increasing self-awareness, the simple act of focusing on our feelings can have transforming effects. The power of silence in the face of anger lies in its capacity to break the cycle of reactivity. When we are angry, our attention is frequently only on our feelings and perspectives. We may become so engrossed in our emotions that we fail to hear what the other person is saying or to empathize with their point of view. By choosing silence, we can open our hearts and minds to a deeper understanding of the situation and the people involved. When we react angrily to a situation, we frequently set off a domino effect of bad feelings and behaviors. Our rage may make others defensive or counter-angry, creating a harmful conflict cycle. Silence breaks this tendency and presents a chance for a more amicable and beneficial outcome. In the end, practicing silence in the face of anger promotes greater emotional equilibrium and equanimity by enabling us to let go of grudges and resentments, creating space for forgiveness and understanding. By doing this, we get closer to the goal of being free from the suffering brought on by anger, which is one of Buddhism's main objectives. Keep quiet whenever you hear rumors and defamation. This lesson emphasizes the value of attentive speech and the repercussions of using damaging communication techniques. In Buddhism, slander and gossip are like poisoned arrows that can hurt both the speaker and the target of the speech. Right speech is a fundamental ethical guideline that emphasizes the importance of speaking honestly, kindly, and constructively. Slander and gossip are violations of these principles, and they can cause suffering and discord. Choosing to remain silent in the face of such talents fosters a more compassionate and harmonious society. In addition to causing unpleasant emotions within ourselves, gossip and slander can also transmit negativity to others, destroying relationships, trust, and community ties. These negative emotions can include jealousy, resentment, or a desire to damage someone's name. In these circumstances, remaining silent has several benefits. First of all, it keeps us from engaging in destructive speech. By refraining from gossiping or slandering, we can avoid the moral and karmic repercussions of telling lies or hurting other people. Second, quiet offers a chance to consider the motivations behind the slander or gossip, such as whether we are acting out of jealousy, rage, or fear. This kind of introspection can spur personal development and transformation. Choosing to remain silent can also help people who are gossiping to change their words. By refusing to take part in or listen to these discussions, we are sending a message that we do not support such behavior, which may cause others to reevaluate the consequences of their remarks and possibly deter them from speaking negatively in the future. As part of the Eightfold Path, right speech is about using our words mindfully and ethically to promote honesty, kindness, and beneficial communication. The effects of gossip and slander are well documented in Buddhism, and these behaviors are regarded as violations of the right to free speech. The ban on defamation and gossip stems from the recognition that when we indulge in gossip or slander, we frequently do so out of unpleasant feelings like envy, resentment, or rage. These emotions can cloud our judgment and cause us to say false things or exaggerate. The power of words can shape our reality, influence our feelings, and impact the lives of other people's faults. There are two ways that gossip and slander can be harmful. False or cruel remarks can cause emotional anguish, disrupt relationships, and harm the person being talked to. In addition, it damages the speaker's reputation. Speaking negatively can have detrimental karmic effects that cause future suffering. It also feeds the speaker's negative feelings, which can contribute to their pain. Choosing to remain silent in the face of slander and gossip is a potent strategy to end the negative cycle. It is an act of non-participation, a refusal to aid in the dissemination of damaging words. This not only complies with the rules of proper discourse, but also safeguards our emotional health and karma. Silence gives us an opportunity to take stock of our objectives. When we come across gossip or slander, we can ask ourselves why we are drawn to it. Are we doing it to feel superior or to hurt someone? This self-examination can be life-changing because it makes us aware of our own negative emotions and the suffering they cause. Additionally, refusing to participate in harmful speech can send a strong message to others that we disapprove of such behavior. Our silence can make others consider the consequences of their words and possibly deter them from continuing their negative speech in general. Silence in the face of slander and gossip fosters a culture of compassion, respect, and empathy by motivating us to see past the flaws and inadequacies of other people and concentrate on their positive traits. It promotes empathy and understanding, which helps to build a more peaceful and compassionate community. The Buddhist principles of compassion and proper speech are embodied in the practice of silence in the face of slander and gossip. It enables us to use our words more carefully, safeguard our wellness, and promote a more peaceful and healthy society. The fourth society: always be quiet when there is a disagreement. Human interactions will inevitably involve conflict, but how we handle it can have a big impact on how things turn out. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of mindfulness and advises us to respond to conflict with quiet. In conflict resolution, empathy and understanding are crucial since disagreements over values, interests, or ideas frequently result in furious arguments. Silence during conflict is not about avoiding or repressing our feelings. Rather, it is about creating a space for active listening, empathy, and finding common ground. By choosing silence, we allow ourselves and others to express themselves without fear of judgment or escalation. When hurtful words and emotional distress occur, silence can act as a cooling balm, allowing us to step back, reflect, and respond with wisdom and compassion. Furthermore, when we respond to conflict with defensiveness or anger, we frequently intensify the problem, making it more difficult to resolve. Silence also enables us to break out from the cycle of reactivity. This cycle is broken by quiet, which offers a moment for introspection and a thoughtful reaction. A disagreement with a family member, a confrontation with a coworker, or a disagreement with a friend. Difference is a typical occurrence in human relationships and interactions. Our relationships and general well-being can be greatly impacted by how we handle and resolve problems. Buddhism advises people to keep quiet during disputes, since it may result in an additional compassionate and thoughtful resolve. Let's examine the wisdom of remaining silent during conflict in more detail. Conflict frequently results from differences in beliefs, values, or interests. When these differences intensify into arguments, disputes, or even physical altercations, they can cause emotional distress, damage relationships, and adverse outcomes for all parties involved. Buddhism acknowledges that conflicts can be especially difficult because they evoke strong emotions and impair our judgment. Silence during a conflict does not imply avoiding or repressing our feelings. Rather, it is a deliberate decision to create an environment that allows both parties to express themselves without worrying about rapid judgment or escalation. In this environment, we can acknowledge both our own emotions and reactions, as well as those of the other party. Silence in conflict is a potent tool for attentive listening, a technique that is frequently disregarded, but essential for clear communication. When we remain silent, we are able to listen intently to what the other person is saying, comprehend their viewpoint, and feel their emotions. By listening with compassion, the situation can be diffused and a more productive conversation can begin. Furthermore, silence provides a chance for introspection. When there is disagreement, we can get caught up in our feelings and find it hard to see the wider picture or think about the long-term effects of our actions. By choosing to remain silent, we take a minute to consider the conflict's underlying origins, our part in it, and possible solutions. The prevention of further escalation is another benefit of silence in conflict resolution. When we react to disagreement with defensiveness, anger, or counterattacks, we frequently feed the negative cycle, which can make it more challenging to establish common ground or come to an agreement. Silence breaks this cycle by providing a pause that promotes a more measured and thoughtful response. When we practice silence during conflict, we are urged to put the relationship's well-being and the larger objectives of mutual understanding and resolution ahead of our own need to be correct or to win the argument. This illustrates the Buddhist idea of non-attachment, which holds that holding on to ego-driven wants can cause pain and obstruct our spiritual development. By encouraging us to look past our immediate feelings and consider the needs and feelings of the other person, silence in conflict resolution can foster empathy, compassion, and compromise. By doing this, we can create an environment where both parties can express themselves, find common ground, and collaborate toward a remedy. Number 5. Silence in times of suffering. This practice, which has its roots in the Buddhist concepts of mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment, is a potent tool that enables us to navigate conflicts with greater wisdom, empathy, and understanding. By adopting this practice, we help to resolve conflicts in a way that maintains relationships, minimizes harm, and fosters harmony. Buddhism's core value is compassion, and this teaching highlights the effectiveness of silence as a way to show compassion and provide consolation to people in need when we witness their suffering. Our first reaction could be to provide consolation or guidance, but according to Buddhism, silence conveys our presence and is often more profound and loving. Our capacity for empathy and our readiness to hear without passing judgment in our interconnected world. Whether it's a friend going through a difficult breakup, a family member experiencing a health crisis, or a stranger going through hardship, we are regularly confronted with the pain and challenges of others. In these situations, our natural tendency is to offer words of comfort or advice in an attempt to lessen the suffering we perceive. Suffering is an inherent part of human existence and can manifest in various forms, including physical pain, emotional distress, or the challenges of daily life. Buddhism suggests that sometimes the more meaningful and loving response is to remain silent. This lesson is consistent with the right to freedom idea, highlighting how crucial it is to speak positively and constructively. When someone else is suffering, silence can be the most helpful and gentle thing. Even well-meaning words can occasionally fall short of expressing the depth of our compassion. In contrast, silence allows the person experiencing pain to express their feelings, thoughts, and experiences in their own time, providing a safe haven where they can be heard without passing judgment. Silence during times of suffering communicates our presence and empathy. This area of quiet people frequently find comfort and support in silence, which shows that we respect their autonomy and ability to deal with their suffering. It also acknowledges that not all suffering can be eased by words or counsel. Sometimes the most important gift we can give is our presence and our capacity for attentive listening. It's important to remember that silence is not always the solution, and that there may be times when words of consolation or support are appropriate. But Buddhism encourages us to consider silence as a valid and valuable response to others' suffering. It reminds us that sometimes the most important gift we can give is our quiet presence. Silence in times of suffering is deeply rooted in the Buddhist principle of compassion, which is not just feeling sympathy for others, but the active desire to alleviate their suffering in silence. Our capacity for sympathetic listening and our readiness to experience other people's suffering. Silence during our suffering. We all experience periods of pain, distress, and suffering, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a personal crisis, or a period of emotional turmoil. Our natural reaction during these times may be to seek solace and support from others, but Buddhism reminds us that there are times when silence, particularly in our suffering, can be profoundly healing. This teaching recognizes the importance of self-compassion and self-care during difficult times, and encourages us to turn inward and embrace the healing power of silence. Giving ourselves the same compassion and understanding that we might give to others allows us to process our feelings, thoughts, and experiences in silence, which promotes healing and personal development. Additionally, silence provides a haven from the pressure to appear brave or to express our suffering to others, whereas confiding in close friends or professionals can be crucial. Sometimes the intensity of our suffering is indescribable. This experience can be freeing because it gives us the ability to simply be with our pain, sit in its presence, and accept it as a part of our current reality. In silence, we can also connect with our inner strength and wisdom. Silence allows us to be with our suffering without having to justify, explain, or make sense of it for others. According to Buddhism, suffering is a natural aspect of life and can be a source of development and wisdom. In the stillness of our hearts and minds, we might learn important things about ourselves and the nature of suffering. We might also explore the impermanence of everything, realizing that suffering, like all experiences, is temporary. Finally, we might realize how interconnected life is, and that our suffering is not unique to us but rather a part of the human condition. This realization can be consoling and enlightening. Silence during difficult circumstances is a deeply ingrained self-compassion, self-care, and self-discovery habit. By embracing this concept, we provide the conditions for healing and personal development. It enables us to connect with our inner strength and wisdom, recognize our grief without passing judgment, and find refuge from the urge to explain. In conclusion, the wisdom of Buddhism provides us with a deep comprehension of the transformational potential of silence in 5 pivotal circumstances. Anger, rumors, and defamation clash when we see other people's suffering and our own pain at these times. Silence is a source of passion, mindfulness, and personal development. Silence is not a sign of passivity or indifference. Rather, it is a deliberate decision to make room for listening, reflection, and thoughtful, compassionate responses that are consistent with the rules of appropriate speech. Kindness and detachment as described in the Eightfold Path. By being mute in each of these 5 circumstances, we enable ourselves to change unfavorable feelings, cultivate empathy and understanding in order to safeguard our connections. As we apply these teachings to our everyday lives, we move closer to the principles of Buddhism, which aim to lessen suffering, cultivate mindfulness, and awaken to the interconnectedness of all beings. By learning to be present, listen intently, and embrace the healing power of silence, we not only find answers to life's challenges, but also uncover a path to inner peace and enlightenment. In the profound silence of these 5 situations, we find the space we need to live more mindfully, compassionately, and authentically. We need silence just as much as we need air, just as plants need light. If our minds are overflowing with words and thoughts, there is no room for us.